You're about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
So what happens in Vegas is supposed to stay in Vegas. And especially you could see the world looking at this Biolab that was found in Las Vegas. People are wondering if whatever was found in that Biolab is going to stay in Vegas. I hope it does. I don't want to see any of this get out. But this is something that when I heard that there was a Biolab that was found in Las Vegas in a rental home, it kind of reminded me of that California case where there was a lab that was being run by Chinese nationals in Southern California. And apparently we're being told that actually those two cases are linked. So let's just review what's going on here. Authorities are now investigating a home in Las Vegas where they suspect a Chinese national was running a biological laboratory. In fact, SWAT officers had served a search warrant, and they had received a tip that a biolab was operating inside a home. This according to Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. And they uncovered 1,000 pieces of evidence with potential biological and hazardous materials. Now, they were primarily located in a locked garage. But what was so frightening is there were people in the house renting rooms that didn't know that they were exposed to this. They have not been arrested. Oh, now I broke my glasses. See what happens when you're around biohazard? Hold on a second. Let me get some new glasses. And so we're starting to get details on what some of the materials were. They apparently the main suspect was arrested in the Southern California biohazard case. And we are being told he was operating out of jail. So one moment, let me hold on one second here. All right. So according to, let me get News 13, KTNV News 13. And they've broken this down nicely. So they are identifying the suspect as Jia Beizhu. Jia Beizhu was apparently the first suspect who was a Chinese national who was linked to the investigation that included the biological laboratory issue in Reedley, California. Now, the home is registered to him, but owned by David Destiny Discovery LLC. During a press conference on Monday, Metro confirmed that the house was owned by the same individual connected to the prior investigation. Why Chinese nationals are here operating biolabs is beyond me. But there's a second suspect. Metro Police named and arrested 55-year-old Ori Solomon, the property manager of the house. The house apparently is on Sugar Springs Drive and Temple View. Actually, no, that's another house that has been searched by authorities. There were 3 individuals independently renting rooms from the property owner. They have been safely removed from the house, not involved in the investigation. But the investigators say the lab was actually inside a locked garage within the house. More than 1,000 samples were collected and then stored safely at the Southern Nevada Health District. While they're looking at that, the initial search of the residence on Sugar Springs identified a biosafety hood, a biosafety sticker. Okay, biosafety sticker. That, I mean, you use this to convey to everybody that you are working with hazardous material. So apparently they wanted people to know. There was a centrifuge, multiple refrigerators, red, brown, unknown liquids in gallon-sized containers, refrigerated vials with unknown liquids, according to Christopher Del Zotto, FBI special agent in charge at the Las Vegas office. And so we're still, kind of learning what this could be. In California, some of the samples were COVID and other sorts of biohazards. And so once we hear what these samples are, we're obviously going to convey those. But just frightening. 55-year-old Ori Solomon, a property manager, was booked into the Clark County detention for a felony charge of improperly disposing of hazardous waste. And Gia Benju was arrested and charged in October 2023 in connection with the warehouse in Reedley, California. He pled not guilty at the time, still remains in custody, but not sure how he is still somehow active with this, or was this stored the whole time? So seeing SWAT officers do the search, seeing 1,000 pieces of data collected and evidence collected, I'm glad they're doing their job, but it starts to make you wonder how much other I mean, what else is in Las Vegas or other homes? I mean, our oversight in terms of labs is limited to those that register with the government. If I run a lab in my medical offices, I have to get it CLIA waived. I have to OSHA needs to be aware. The government needs to be aware that there's a lab. If I am at all processing any specimens, et cetera, there's supposed to be oversight. Well, if people are sneaking into the country or they're doing things on their own, and the threat to others is exponential. What happened with COVID in the Wuhan lab and the leak of a bioweapon, whether it was planned to be a bioweapon or just inadvertently it ended up being a bioweapon because it ended up being COVID, that was out of a lab, and a lab with technical oversight. We cannot have biohazardous material where it's not supposed to be. You can't have the checks and balances. And you can't have individuals from other countries, right, deciding to operate these things in our neighborhood, especially in my backyard. Oh, hell no. So this obviously has raised a lot of questions. People are wondering what the hell is happening in Vegas. I'm not sure. I'm not running Las Vegas currently. We'll see what happens. But luckily, we do not believe there has been any threat. What this reminds us, though, is that there could be foreign elements that have nothing better to do than to continue the work that, unfortunately, other labs have been doing in terms of gain of research or gain of function, that there can be plans that will entail weaponry from the biohazard realm in terms of using viruses, using bacteria, using parasites, using chemicals, and that they have no problem doing it in our backyard because they don't think there's oversight. So great job that the authorities caught this. Well done. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
And we're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So doctors have been mixed on the pediatric gender detransitioning, a gender dysphoric pediatric patient. We all, I think, agree that if you do have a child that is waking up saying, I'm in the wrong body, help me, I'm in the wrong body, we have to help that child. And that child needs support. And we are also we should be all on the same page against gay conversion classes and forcing a child to be somebody they're not. We have fought against parents saying, my child is not gay. They say they're gay. Medically change him, medically force him. My child doesn't want to be white. My child doesn't want to be black. My child doesn't want to change him medically. And doctors, that's not what we do. However, things have changed in the last few decades in terms of gender philosophy and gender ideology and using medical means to alter somebody's gender identity. And doctors have been mixed on that because we don't want anybody, undergoing something that could be permanent, affect their fertility, affect their ability to breastfeed. We don't want to do eugenics. We want that child, if they later do want to have kids and take care of them, do that, even if they currently do not identify as a male or female. They still may want to have fertility. And so, things have been very chaotic in terms of that, because you have legal experts in Europe saying, no, these kids can't commit. They can't consent. They don't understand that they're going to have to be on medication and treatment for life. That's a pretty big commitment. Plus, their expectations of becoming a woman or a man might not, be met. And so you're starting to see more and more medical groups go, okay, I think we need to, reevaluate what we're doing to children. When people ask, why are doctors supporting surgeries and gender transitioning on these young people, it's because of the threat of suicide. Where parents are being told their child may commit suicide. A child waking up saying, I'm in the wrong body. They could be struggling so much that they could consider suicide. Unfortunately, you have parents and now lawsuits saying their doctor told them that if they didn't, their child would end up dead. And all this fear that their child is going to kill themselves prompted them to go and put their child through these procedures to change what they are biologically. And doctors are now speaking out, going, I don't know if that's the safest thing. Well, the next group of doctors to have spoken out now is the American, I apologize now that I'm pulling up, my computer's acting up, the American Society of Plastic Surgeons. The American Society of Plastic Surgeons is now recommending that gender-affirming surgeries not happen in the pediatric population, that they get delayed until the child is at least 19 years old. They represent 11,000 physician members. And this is not clinical practice guideline, but a professional guidance of a rapidly evolving and controversial state of medicine. This is a major break, from what we have seen in America. It really follows what we're seeing in Europe, but it's a little break of what we're seeing in America, with doctors and medical groups saying, absolutely, put the child through transitioning. Let the child do this. The American Academy of Plastic Surgeons is recommending, no, let's wait until they're 19. Now, again, part of the reason why there's such a rush with the child, because people think it's all political and all that, is when you have somebody who, let's say, is truly gender dysphoric, and it's a small number of the population, but somebody who says, I really don't want to be a man, I really don't want to be a female, arresting the pubertal changes allows the transitioning to go easier. Unfortunately, to arrest those changes, you need to get to them when they're really, really young. And I mean, I always wanted to be a boy. I thought boys had it easier. I loved athletics. I loved sports. I wasn't a tomboy, but I really just felt, now I want to do guy things. But I'm glad I'm a girl. Thank God nobody transitioned me or nobody talked me into transitioning. You can't make that decision. And now I'm a woman. I'm happy. I'm having babies. I was able to breastfeed. And I was, I still like hanging out with dudes. I still like dude stuff, but I'm glad I'm a woman. These kids don't have the ability to decide what they have to do, and they don't understand that for life, they are going to have to be on suppressive hormonal therapy, not to mention removal of breasts or penis or testicles could cause lifelong pain. They don't have that ability to understand that. So that's why the American Society of Plastic Surgeons says they recommend as a whole to delay until the child is at least 19 years old. Now, what else prompted this? I mean, the data has been out for a while. The UK has been banning these procedures in kids unless they're a part of already a clinical trial. Why now? Well, it could be because now the lawsuits are happening. So there was a 22-year-old woman who identified as a boy in her teen years. She just won $2 million, which many people think is an under award. She should have won more, accusing New York doctors of pushing a double mastectomy on her when she was a minor. Fox Varian was only 16 years old. A psychologist and a surgeon conveyed to her and her mom that this is something they should do. Well, now she's detransitioning, was awarded $1.6 million for past and future pain and suffering, and got $400,000 for future medical expenses. Psychologist Kenneth Einhorn and surgeon Simon Chin were held responsible in the Westchester County Supreme Court in White Plains for, quote, ignoring standards of care and procedural guardrails by, quote, pressuring the minor into addressing gender dysphoria with permanent surgery. And the jury decided this. Lawyers for Varian pointed the finger on the psychologist, saying the psychologist drove the train, put the idea in her head that she had to change her gender with surgery. The child's mom, well, now she's an adult, the mom, Varian's mother, Claire Deacon, testified she was against the surgery, but consented to it out of fear her daughter would commit suicide. She said the man was just so emphatic and pushing that I felt there was no good decision. She said, I think it was a scare tactic. I don't believe it was malice. I think he believed what he was saying, but he was very, very wrong. So now she doesn't have breasts, called a top surgery. She feels physically ill, is unhappy. And so the lawyers for Einholm and Chin argued that she lived happily as a male for several years after the surgery, and that she came to them using male pronouns. So doctors are now wondering, well, wait a second, what do we do? Because we don't want to get sued later. Well, it's all about consent. Okay, that's the thing. Okay, you're the mom or the parent may want the child to undergo something, but when that child becomes an adult and says, no, I didn't want this, I didn't know what I wanted, now the legal system is allowing for those individuals to be able to get damages. And so doctors now have to rethink, is this somebody who's going to want to feed their child later? We saw what happened with the Abbott Pharmaceuticals, where their plant had to be closed down because there was a suspected Chronobacter Nagasaki contamination, which I think the audit found that there wasn't. But when the main formula plant closed down and baby formula was in short supply, we have a lot of women who ended up saying, I'm going to breastfeed. And we now have a huge uptick in women breastfeeding. What if there is some issue later where somebody decides, I want to feed my child? The idea that somebody who has gender dysphoria is not going to want to have a baby, is not going to want to reproduce, is discriminatory. Everybody should have a chance to have a child if they want one. and be able to feed that child if they need to. And so do I think the doctors were maliciously trying to? No. If they really thought that that child was going to kill themselves, they want to save the child. Many of these doctors performing these surgeries are doing it in the hopes that they are helping that patient with their outcomes and their quality of life. But they need to stop and realize that there's very conflicting data. And if Europe is already on the way saying no, and now American, medical groups are like, look, I think the child has to be aware of what they want and be an adult to make a better decision. I think that's probably then the safest way to go. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, don't go away. Dr. Dahlia here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Lisa Wolf here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you. And be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOC-DALI. So one of my listeners asked, how would I handle the whole Minneapolis if I was made border czar, or if I was in the Trump administration or the Biden administration? How would I have handled what was going on? And I love that people ask my opinion, especially since I don't have any of that background, although sometimes those are some of the most effective people, those that haven't been in, like, look at Trump, had never been a politician, and he seems to know what he's doing. But, I would, if looking at what has happened with the rioters and the publicity and what's been going on, if there were operations to remove illegal, criminal, well, obviously they're illegal, but illegal immigrants with criminal backgrounds, the state of the way things are right now in Minneapolis, it's pretty public. I am sure that people are bunkering down. Those that need to be arrested, they are bunkering down, and they are laying low because of all the attention. There's cameras everywhere. There's rioters. There's ICE agents everywhere. And so what ICE needs to do, if they do have to perform operations, is, if there are any covert or undercover operations, they have to be able to go back and do those covertly. And so they would use the ICE agents standing there in the street as a distraction, let the rioters go to the ICE agents, et cetera, because it sounds like ICE is still being able to do their work. Just it's unfortunate what's happening where ICE agents are being abused and hit. And then we've had 2 Minneapolis Americans shot, scuffling and getting into it with ICE agents. So it's a mess. I don't want to see this continue. But if I was ICE, I would consider, letting this fizzle down. The rioters are eventually they're going to run out of money, because people look at these rioters going, don't they have day jobs? Don't they? Well, somebody's funding it, but eventually somebody's going to stop funding it. And so whoever stops funding it, all of a sudden these people go. And then ICE may have to do more of their covert, undercover sort of operations. ICE being, doing the raids that they're doing has been able to remove very successfully many criminal elements. And we I think bipartisanly, there's a lot of support for getting criminals that got into this country out. But being that it is such now a spectacle and a circus, and what you're seeing with Holman now, the border czar, Thomas Holman, has said they are now going to remove 700 agents. So Tom Holman said that they have been communicating with federal and local leaders. They are taking 700 agents out of the state. What I would do is I would say, look, we need these agents out there to protect ICE and to protect the areas and make sure that individuals and Minnesotans are being taken hostage, et cetera. If you provide us local authorities, then our ICE agents don't have to be there. If Jacob Frey and the mayor give us, work in conjunction with us to provide barriers, barricades, we don't need our officers doing that. Because unfortunately, what has had to happen is more ICE agents have had to come into the area to protect other ICE agents. If you want, there to be fewer ICE agents as mayor or as Governor Walz of Minnesota, then you need to do your job and provide the necessary protection. If there's a firefighter trying to, address a fire, put out a fire in house, you need there to be officials keeping bystanders away. I mean, if there's a crime scene, you need officials to keep bystanders away. So ICE agents are now not only trying to perform ICE duties, but they're also trying to perform the duties that the city of Minneapolis is supposed to be doing. So I love the idea of negotiating with them, saying, look, you do your part so we can have fewer agents. So Border Czar Tom Holman went down there to try to help kind of clean things up. He took over from former border commander at large Greg Bovino. He says he has negotiated with Minnesota leaders to remove more ICE agents from the state. He said if county jails cooperated with immigration officials, then ICE leadership might pull some federal agents. They say we currently, according to CARE 11, have an unprecedented number of towns communicating with us now and allowing ICE to take custody of illegal aliens before they hit the streets. More officers taking custody of criminal aliens directly from the jails means less officers on the street. So it's Operation Metro Surge. Holman said federal agents have arrested 14 people with homicide convictions, 138 people with assault convictions, 87 people with sex offenses, 28 gang members. And there have been people without criminal records detained, 2,400 people detained. But as we see in Canada, Mexico, etc., if there is somebody that came to the country illegally and is not going through the process that legal migrants are going through, there are consequences. They have to get to the back of the line and they get deported. That's what all these other countries do. It's sad to see. Do we give them a mulligan? Unfortunately, you have a legal immigration process that America has been very, very proud of and has been very successful. And if legal migrants feel that people are going to take cuts and they won't be able to go through a process or get asylum, it's a mess. We have to maintain our legal immigration system. And if illegal immigrants take advantage of these situations, they have to, and many of them were given court dates. They were allowed to stay and follow if they followed the rules. If they didn't follow the rules, they have to leave. Canada is very explicit about that. If you don't follow the rules, if you misrepresent, if you don't show up at your court date, you're out. Mexico, too. So, to think that ICE is not going to deport illegal immigrants, of course they are. That's their job. That's always been their job. They did that under Biden. They did that under Obama. Now, Holman clarified that ICE leadership is not requiring jails to hold people past their usual release time, because a lot of people have said that that's been happening. And so body cameras are also going to start being used as well, which will help protect agents where people claim that they were, assaulted or they shot first, etc. So according to Holman, he said the plan is to deploy body-worn cameras nationwide, but it's a priority for the city right now. Holman said the American people seek and deserve trustworthy law enforcement. So I think things are moving in the positive direction. And so I agree with that. We need to bring down the rhetoric. We need to, unfortunately, things are not calming down. Anti-ICE agitators are now setting up these makeshift checkpoints. They're trying to track federal agents, stop vehicles, question drivers. You know how dangerous that is? To go up to somebody who's just trying to get to work? That person, who isn't an ICE agent, might not want you, who has no authority to mess with them. Very dangerous. And they're coming up with traffic cones and barricades. One agitator was dressed in a black coat and black mask, approaching a stopped vehicle, asking if they were ICE. Come on. He says, it looks like in our system that your plates come up as an ICE plate. And so, they're asking drivers for their names. This is not safe. But these agitators are getting paid to do this. They should go back to their day job. Whoever is paying them to do this, stop it. And they are putting themselves at risk. It is unsafe for them to go up to strangers in cars and stop them from going where they need to go. But it's a scene that in Minneapolis they want to have as we're coming into midterms. I'm just worried that there's going to be more chaos. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away. Hi, guys. Dr. Dahlia here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping, addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdahlia.com. Check it out.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot's Secret Gasoline Extreme. The solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot's Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret. Powered by science.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. We've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
We're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. So a few of you have written me over the last year or two about these consents you have to sign at the doctor's office, and you don't like it because you don't have an attorney reviewing it and you feel like you wouldn't be able to sue. Yet, as you heard in today's segment, how a mom consented for her child undergoing gender transition surgery and was able to successfully sue despite the consent being signed. So some of you have asked for some clarity on these informed consents. In law, nothing is ironclad, but as a physician, the reason why we do informed consents is it's evidence that a doctor didn't tell a patient, this is what we're doing. And you do as I say, you don't question it, and I'm doing it whether you want me to do it or not. An informed consent prevents that from happening because the average doctor is not putting a gun to your head telling you to sign something. They are saying, look, you want this procedure done, you want this breast lift, you want breast removal, you want hormone therapy, you want your gallbladder removed electively, you want a colonoscopy for a screen, so we are telling you the risks and the benefits. You are making a decision, an informed decision. You are allowed to ask us any questions before you sign that. We will explain everything in detail if you need. And then if you do feel confident about us moving forward, you sign the form. And the informed consent is supposed to be a form showing that not only that the doctor discussed it with you, but it's also in writing. So you could also read and see what some of the risks are. And many of you will see on these informed consents, there's a risk of death. You are signing that there is risk of death. And the doctors will have that in there because there are some procedures where, unfortunately in surgery, et cetera, there could be the remote possibility. But if a doctor does not tell you that that's a possibility, they're in trouble. So informed consent forms have to be fairly lengthy. Because if they leave something out and a patient says, well, wait a second, you didn't say I could have bleeding. You didn't say I could get a bad infection. You didn't say that I could have cosmetic deformity. The form is going to have to list all of those. So some informed consents are pages long. And, do you have a right to an attorney to review it with you? Absolutely. Do you have the right for the attorney to change your informed consent? You have a right to anything, but that physician might not perform the surgery. Physicians have a right to, if they feel that they are not going to be protected legally, they may say, this relationship isn't working. You do not want to sign consent. I could only perform the surgery if you sign this consent. If you do not wish to sign the consent, then I can't perform the surgery because I can only perform the surgery with signed consent. So everybody has choices. But I understand as a patient, you might not feel like you have those choices because if you don't sign that doctor's consent, they may not do the surgery. But the reason why they're doing it is there is an ethical duty for them to review the risks, and there's also a lot of liability. Now, how are patients being successful in lawsuits if they signed these consents? Well, lawyers can find holes in these consents. And they could say, they consented to this and this and this, but you forgot, doctor, to say that they could have an antibiotic reaction. And that's what the patient had. So they didn't know that. They would have not signed consent. And the doctor's like, wait a second. So they consented knowing there's a risk of death, you're telling me. But they wouldn't have signed it if they thought they could have an allergy to an antibiotic they've taken before. Yep. You didn't have it in the informed consent. So one is these informed consents are not always ironclad. So there can be holes in it. And the other issue that happens with malpractice is if there is gross negligence. If a doctor did cut off the wrong leg or ignored something that was, completely grossly negligent, a patient cannot sign their rights away for that. It's most informed consents do not say, you're not going to sue me if I cut off the wrong breast or I cut off the wrong leg. That's kind of gross negligence. So if it does end up going to a jury and the jury's like, are you kidding me? This doctor was an idiot. There's a good chance that that family will win. So what ends up happening now, I've never been sued. I've been very, very fortunate. But many of my friends, almost all my colleagues that, have had some lawsuit of one or another. What basically happens is the insurance company gets involved right away, and they make the decision for the doctor to move ahead or not. If the doctor goes with the malpractice's decision, the malpractice company's decision, the malpractice company will say, look, I think we could fight this. This is definitely not your fault. We're going to fight this. And, we got your back. If the malpractice company says, look, you know what, we don't have the time. Let's just settle, give them some money. And the doctor's like, but whoa, wait, I didn't do anything wrong. No. We need to fight this. The malpractice company may tell that doctor, look, we don't have the time and money. If you want to fight this, you could fight it on your own. But if you lose, we're not paying. So the doctor feels like, well, damn, I'm screwed. So they end up going with the malpractice company who gives a settlement. And now that follows that doctor for life, that they had to do a settlement when they thought they were innocent the whole time. Now, in the malpractice company's defense, this is what happens, just like with health insurance or anything else, when you don't pay your own bills. If the malpractice company is taking on the lawsuit and the liability of the millions of dollars, they are going to want to have say. They don't want doctors to say fight, and then they lose so much money and lawyers, etc. They know, they've been through this. They know what cases they can win and cases they can't. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who try to play with the system and just keep getting settlements. But these malpractice companies are privy to that too. If it's a settlement that's a BS settlement, no, you're not going to get money from them. But if it's a case where they're like, well, in front of a jury, they could, in front of a jury, they could make a case, they may play it safe. So in this case with the detransitioner saying, I didn't want my breasts removed. You guys talked me and my mom into it. I was only a minor at the time. I wanted my breasts. I want them back. I don't have them. The jury and the how this happened in this case is the doctors were found then liable. Consent or no consent. It was a child. And we don't have a lot of precedent set on kids giving consent through their parents for something that wasn't life-threatening. If it's life-threatening, if you have cancer, the jury's going to be like, well, look, the person had cancer. But removing breasts because the child thought they wanted to be a boy, and they're like, I don't want to be a boy. And even if I do want to be a boy, I want to breastfeed my child. Now, all it takes is a jury to go, that's not cool. That child should have been able to, have the reversibility or the... So informed consents do help provide protection, but the informed consent is more about protecting the patient. So the patient has a list of side effects, a list of adverse events, so they can educate themselves on what could happen in that surgery. Does it always protect against a lawsuit? No, it doesn't. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by Financial Fitness Show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.